The ABC's North Asia correspondent Mark Willacy today returned to the coastal village of Rikuzentakata, a place he visited on assignment last year. I spoke to him a short time ago. Mark, first of all, just tell us where you are.
I'm in a town called Kono, which is about 30 kilometres inland from some of the worst hit areas in all of Japan. In fact, we were at one of those areas this morning. Rikuzentakata was basically wiped off the face of the map. There were about 23,000 people living in that fishing town when the wave hit. We understand that as many as 15,000 are unaccounted for, and when we were there this morning, basically there was only a few houses left standing. A wave of 10 metres hit that particular village, and a bit further up towns like Kuji, Kamaashi and also Nodomura, where there are still talk of thousands missing and of giant waves washing as far as 6 kilometres inland. And in fact, we followed the path of the tsunami today, and it came 6 kilometres inland. There were houses that had been taken from the coast and plonked 3 kilometres up dry gullies. So that gives you an idea of the power of this tsunami.
Mark, I'll ask you a little bit more about that in a second, but before I do, I just wanted to ask you about the nuclear situation. What is the very latest there in Japan on that?
We're being told by the Prime Minister, Nato Kan, that the radiation risk has risen considerably. There are now potential human health risks. That's what the government is saying, particularly, obviously, in and around those plants, those 6 nuclear reactors. We've obviously had problems with 3 nuclear reactors in the past few days. There are again reports of 2 more explosions today, and also the number 4 reactor was on fire. It has now been put out, so 4 of the 6 reactors at Fukushima are in deep trouble. So there's also talk of higher than usual radiation levels being detected in Tokyo, which is 250 kilometres to the southwest of that site. So a little bit of panic is starting to creep in here. There's people who are leaving the country, especially expats and Westerners who are based here in the finance industry. All sorts of people are going because they think it's not worth the risk.
And do Japanese residents feel that they're getting clear information about what they actually need to do?
I think there's a feeling that they're not, because with every passing hour, every passing day, the news keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And they were being told things are under control. Repeatedly, things are under control. Well, apparently they're not under control. So many Japanese are thinking they're not being told the full story.
Mark, just to return to the sorts of things you've been seeing today, you've spent time in some of these areas previously for stories that you've done for the ABC. The contrast must be just heartbreaking.
Yes, well, we were up in Rikuzentakata for Foreign Correspondent last year, filming inside the little town. We were there with a guy who used to live there. We went back up with him and we spent the day walking through the town, looking at some beautiful old Japanese houses, wonderful wooden houses with beautiful tile roofs, very old traditional styles. We wandered through Buddhist temples. We went down to the fishing port. We went out for dinner with about 8 of the residents that night who put on a wonderful show for us. I have to say that we understand that all of those people are missing, presumed dead. We did speak to the former resident that we went up there. He's back in Tokyo and he says, I can't get onto anyone there. Please go in and have a look. We went in and had a look, and I can understand why there is basically so many missing, at least 10 to 15,000. We went to the evacuation centre. There are people there who say, I can't find my father, I can't find my cousin. We talked to one man who knew 50 people, up to 50 people, he couldn't contact. So it is truly heartbreaking, and this place has been devastated. The problem is that there's so many of these villages up and down the Japanese coast that have been wiped out, just like this particular fishing village.
And did you come across any survivors today where you were?
We certainly did. We talked to one lady who said she heard the wave coming. She saw this black mass, she called it, and she went up to her second floor. It didn't save her. Well, it saved her life, but she didn't save her from being swept away with her house, and she was lucky. She survived. But while we were there, we sat there filming, and the army arrived, and a team of police recovery specialists arrived, and I counted 6 bodies that they picked up in 10 minutes just by wandering through the site. There were bodies everywhere, and it wasn't pretty. You know, so these people had obviously suffered very terrible, violent deaths, being swept along in this great leviathan of debris. So some gruesome sights there for the recovery teams. And we were speaking to some a day ago who said, look, we think if someone's trapped, if they're in, they're very, very lucky they're trapped, they've got a bit of air down there, maybe 72 hours. But that 72-hour limit has come, it's gone, it's now a recovery. Any idea of rescue in these sorts of places is just not on.
Just unimaginable, really, Mark. Thank you very much for speaking to us tonight.
Thanks, Lee.